In the heart of a restless city, where streetlights cast long shadows on cracked sidewalks and sirens punctuated the nights like bitter lullabies, lived a young man named Elias Turner. He was 24, with careful eyes and a mind sharpened by hardship.
Elias wasn't just another face in the crowd. He was black, brilliant, and burdened by the weight of a system that saw his skin before his soul. Since childhood, he was taught to watch his tone, keep his hands visible, and never ever run unless he wanted to become a name on a hashtag.
The streets hummed with an eerie quiet, broken only by the flickering neon signs above shuttered stores and the distant wail of a siren cutting through the night. Malik walked slowly, hands buried deep in the pockets of his hoodie, his breath visible in the cold air. Every footstep echoed like a reminder. He didn't belong here, not in this part of the city, not under these lights that promised comfort, but offered none to people like him. He kept his head low, though he had done nothing wrong. It was habit now, one forged from years of warnings, glances, and the ever-present fear that the color of his skin would be enough to make him suspect. Even now, in the silence of midnight, the weight of invisible eyes pressed against his shoulders. His phone buzzed, a message from his sister. "You okay? I heard police are out heavy tonight." He typed back quickly. "I'm fine, just walking home." But even he didn't believe it. He turned a corner, and that's when he saw them, two officers standing at the far end of the block, watching him. Still, silent, waiting.
Officer Reynolds narrowed his eyes as he saw the silhouette emerge from the alley and step into the dim neon glow. A boy, maybe 17 or 18, walking slow, cautious, just like every other kid trying not to look like trouble, which to him, somehow, always made them look like more. His partner, Davis, shifted beside him. "Another one out late. What you think?" Reynolds didn't answer right away. He watched the boy's shoulders, tense, hunched, almost expecting confrontation. That posture had become so familiar lately. Sometimes it felt like the whole city walked like that, guarded, waiting to be accused of something. But Reynolds wasn't new. He'd grown up in these streets, different part of town, sure, but same feel. He knew the look of someone guilty and the look of someone just tired. This kid looked like the second kind. "Let him pass," he muttered. Davis raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" Reynolds nodded, eyes still following the boy. "He's just trying to get home. Let him."
Jamal stood by the cracked window of his grandmother's apartment, staring down at the blinking lights of the city. From this high up, the sirens sounded like distant wails, lost, mournful, like a city crying for something it forgot how to feel. His phone buzzed on the table behind him, but he didn't turn. Instead, he listened to the wind whispering through the broken seal in the window, to the faraway voices echoing in alleys he once called home. "Everything's changing, Steenie," he whispered. Behind him, his grandmother's voice called gently, "You okay, baby?" He nodded, though she couldn't say. "Yeah, just thinking." He didn't say he was thinking about the look in the cop's eyes earlier, the one who didn't stop him. That brief, unreadable moment of recognition. Not fear, not hate. Something quieter, something that still hurt. He thought about how strange it felt to be seen, not just watched, to be spared.
Detective Carter sat on the edge of his bed, the service pistol heavy in his hand, not from weight, but from memory. The room was dark, except for the blinking red numbers of the alarm clock. 2:43 a.m., he hadn't slept. Not really. Jamal's face kept coming back to him. Not in anger, not in fear, just clarity. Like Carter had finally looked into a mirror and seen the cracks spreading beneath his own badge. He remembered what his father used to say. The badge don't make you just. Your actions do. But what were his actions today? Inaction, hesitation, and in that hesitation, a question. What if mercy was more powerful than control? He ran a hand through his thinning hair and stood slowly. Out the window the city still roared, but somewhere in its noise, something softer was growing. Something that sounded almost like hope.
It started with a murmur. A breath of doubt passed between neighbors. Все началось с шепота. Дыхание сомнения, переданное между соседями. Then came the questions. Why was Jamal stopped? Where was the footage? The silence of the authorities only made the noise louder.
I remember the night before the protest. Our kitchen was a war room. Posters drying on the floor, voices raised in planning. And in my chest, a storm, not of fear, but of fire.
We marched, not with rage, but with purpose. Every footstep was a name, every chant a memory. Jamal, Brianna, George, names that echoed down streets lined with boarded windows.
They tried to drown us out with sirens, but our voices rose, louder than helicopters, clearer than tear gas. We were not rioters, we were witnesses. We were the storm that silence had summoned.
And when they stood in riot gear, we stood with locked arms, no weapons, just truth, and grief turned steel.
They can break bones, they can shatter glass, but they cannot erase names etched into the soul of a movement.
The streets didn't sleep that night. Cars rolled slowly, their headlights slicing through shadows like silent searchlights. Jamal walked with his fists clenched, not in anger, but in focus. He could feel the fire inside him, that same fire that burned in his father's chest when he marched decades ago. It wasn't rage, it was purpose.
Lena stood on the church steps, her palms trembling. The crowd gathered slowly, candles glowing in paper cups, faces of every shade, every age. Her voice cracked when she began to speak, not from fear, but from the weight of history. "I light this flame," she said, "not just for the fallen, but for the living who refuse to fall."
Jamal stepped up beside her. He looked out at the sea of faces, then down at the flame in her hands. He held out his hand, and together they lifted the candle higher. The fire danced in the wind but did not die. It was the fire they carried from those who came before to those who would follow. He finally spoke. "Let them see our light, even if they try to blind us with fear."
And in that moment, the silence broke. A chorus rose, not of music, but of voices, of names shouted into the night sky. Names of the lost, names of the living, names of hope. Lena looked at Jamal. "We don't carry fire to burn," she whispered. "We carry it to warm the world awake."
And in that moment, the silence broke. A chorus rose, not of music, but of voices, of names shouted into the night sky. Names of the lost, names of the living, names of hope. Lena looked at Jamal. "We don't carry fire to burn," she whispered. "We carry it to warm the world awake." The headlines came and went. Some praised the march, others twisted it into chaos. But in our hearts, we knew the truth. Something had shifted. The ground beneath our feet was no longer still. Jamal walked through his neighborhood, and people looked at him differently now, not as a target, not as a symbol, but as a leader.
At the school, Lena found a flyer posted on the wall. Student Voices Matter. Join the Equity Council. She smiled just a little, not because everything was fixed, but because someone had finally started listening. Even if it was a whisper, it was more than the silence they'd been given before.
One afternoon, Jamal sat under the same mural they had once restored. Now children ran past it without fear. He watched them, quiet. A teacher sat beside him. She didn't ask questions. She didn't offer empty words. She just sat. And sometimes, presence was enough.
We were not done. The fight would go on, but now we knew how to carry it. Not as a burden, but as a banner.